We didn't get any clarity on Tuesday night. We got some chaos because now the Boston Celtics are in a big three-way tie for second place. So what do they do now? We'll talk about that. And how much credit does Danny Ainge deserve for where the Celtics are right now? It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the show. Thank you for making this Locked On Celtics podcast part of your daily routine, your first listen every day. Appreciate you listening to the show. Pack it up with you, download the show, put it on your favorite podcast app, take it with you in the car. I know a lot of you are going back to work and driving again. The roads are getting more clogged. Take this podcast with you, bring it with you in the car, and enjoy your drive, or at least enjoy it a little bit more. You can also watch a show on YouTube. Pop that in the background tab at work. Pop your headphones on. You got a little podcast for you. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, and I was one of the media voters for the 75th anniversary team. Boston Celtics were idle on Tuesday night, flying over to Chicago, but there was still movement. There was still movement in the standings. Celtics now in a three-way tie with Milwaukee and Philly at 49 and 30, 2.5 games out of first. I'll talk about those games and my takes out of those games, what the Celtics should be worried about right here in the first segment. Second segment, I'll get more into the path. What should they do? A lot of people are reacting to how things are going, and they're saying, oh, Celtics should tank, or the Celtics should do this. I'll address that in the second segment. Later on, Chad Finn from Boston.com and the Globe wrote a piece about Danny Ainge saying he deserves credit for this team. I'll talk about Danny Ainge's role in this Boston Celtics team coming up later on in the third segment. Boston Celtics, like I said, are tied with Milwaukee and Philly after both teams won on Tuesday night. Philly beat the Indiana Pacers 131-122. Milwaukee Bucks beat the Chicago Bulls 127-106. And how they did it makes things very interesting moving forward. How they did it put some thoughts in my head about where the Celtics should be focused, what they should be worried about here. And I'm going to start with the Milwaukee Bucks are super, super dangerous. They're just dangerous now, more dangerous than before. And a team that kind of, I don't know, flew under the radar somehow. They were kind of coasting throughout the course of the season. You had some injuries. You had, obviously, Brook Lopez was the big injury. You had guys kind of like coasting. And all of a sudden, here are the Milwaukee Bucks at 49 wins, on the verge of 50 wins. The East, by the way, the top four teams will all end up, it seems, with 50 wins, which is pretty cool. But what's happening with the Milwaukee Bucks? All of a sudden, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo butting his way back into the MVP race. And as we saw in this game, the Milwaukee Bucks also got Brook Lopez, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Brook Lopez is giving me that oh crap moment. And I talked about this on the Locked On NBA podcast. Check out Locked On NBA. On Wednesdays, I host with Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans. And we talked about all of these playoffs. We went up and down, top to bottom playoffs, seeding after the Tuesday night games. So make sure you're checking out that podcast. But I will reiterate here that it's Brook Lopez that worries me. Brook Lopez is the guy that all of a sudden just shifts things into focus a little bit, kind of like Robert Williams does for the Celtics. Brook plays a certain style that basically the entire Bucks defense is built around. And it's obviously Giannis is the best defensive player. He could be defensive player of the year. He's always in the running for that. But in a sense, Brook is Milwaukee's version of Al Horford. And what the Celtics are trying to do is use Rob in kind of a similar way that Milwaukee uses Giannis, as that roamer, as that helper. And so obviously they're two. I'm not going to compare Rob to Giannis in ability or any of that stuff, but that roaming, that style, the defensive style, that's the role that he plays. And while Brook and Al Horford do very different things, Brook is a drop only defender, and Al Horford switches a lot. You're certainly not going to ask Brook Lopez to switch onto guards, which Al Horford can do. But Al being able to defend the way he defends allows for Rob to play the way he plays, and Brook playing the way that he plays and defends how he defends allows Giannis to be what he is. And then you can shift Giannis over to the center, and then that changes the dynamic of how the Bucks can play. And all of this is to say that over the past couple of weeks, watching the Milwaukee Bucks, you're sitting there and you go, oh boy, these are the champs. This is the championship team. And in this game, now it's against Chicago, and Chicago is 0 for the top teams minus Boston. They're 1-1 against Boston, hopefully 1-2 against Boston at the end of this. Boston could be the only team that they've gotten a single win against, because 0-4 against Milwaukee, 0-4 against Miami, 0-4 against Philadelphia. So the Chicago Bulls are in a bit of a free fall. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment when I get into what I'm looking for. But in this game, on Tuesday night, you really got the highlight of Brooklyn dominating because you get Brook back. Getting Brook back for the playoffs changes the entire dynamic for the Milwaukee Bucks. At the same time, you had the Philadelphia 76ers win. How did the 76ers win? They did it obviously behind the dominant Joel Embiid game, 45 points, 13 rebounds, couple of assists and a block. But really, it's all about Tyrese Maxey. 8 of 11 from 3. 8 of 11 from 3 for Tyrese Maxey. He drops 30 points. Philly ends up winning this game by 9. And so you can argue like, well, you only beat the Pacers by 9, but the Celtics didn't exactly blow the Pacers out either. The Sixers, if they're getting 8 of 11 shooting from Tyrese Maxey, or any kind of good shooting from Tyrese Maxey, I'm not going to sit here and say 73% shooting from 3 is like, oh, if you're getting 73% shooting from 3 from somebody, like, yeah, obviously that's going to help you win a game. Maxey is shooting over 40% from 3. If they're getting 40% plus from Tyrese Maxey, then the Sixers are going to be hard to beat. And if we're looking at a road that includes potentially Philadelphia, potentially Brooklyn, Milwaukee in that second round, then things get difficult. And if the key for the Sixers, as demonstrated on Tuesday night, is their shooting. Maxey 8 of 11, Tobias Harris 5 of 6. No one's beating the Sixers when they do that, because James Harden can shoot 2 of 7 from 3 and 4 of 10 like he did, but he gets 14 assists because he's dropping dimes to all these guys, and it works out. It's fine. If the Celtics face the Sixers, and if the Sixers can get this level of shooting or somewhere close to this level of shooting, and again, I say that meaning like Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey being like knocked down type of guys. If those guys can go on a run of being knocked down guys, then that changes a lot of what the Sixers can do. It just does. So just a couple of things that catch your eye on Tuesday night that make you say, this road for the Celtics is going to be interesting. Another one is this Brooklyn game. Brooklyn everything goes right for Brooklyn on Tuesday night. Brooklyn beats Houston 118-105. Charlotte lost. Atlanta lost. Cleveland lost. So when you look at the standings now, the Brooklyn Nets are now the 8th seed, and they play Cleveland again. So they could easily be in that 7th seed. They'll need one game to win to be the 7th seed. Now the Celtics are at 2, and you go 2-7. Do you want Brooklyn in that first round? What should the Celtics do? What can they do? Let's save this conversation. Let's get into that conversation next, because where Brooklyn is and what the Celtics can do or not do, there's a lot. And Tuesday night, again, didn't give a whole lot of clarity, and it does put the Celtics in a tough spot. I'm going to talk about all that in just a minute. First, let me tell you about Shady Rays, which is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, premium, high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. Let's listen to that. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. And these are nice sunglasses. They are stylish. They have a bunch of different styles. And if you lose one, you're like, I can't believe I lost these. I love these. They will send you a new pair. You pay nothing. If you don't love them, you pay nothing. That sounds great, right? Gets better. They provide 10 meals. They donate 10 meals to fight hunger in America when you shop Shady Rays. That's also amazing. You can feel good. Gets even better because our listeners can head over to shadyrays.com and use the code LOCKEDON for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. How about making Locked On Now your second listen every day? Get both sides of each game in the association every night. Check it out. Each side records a couple minutes, gives you their take, and then you get a good sense of what happened in the games Tuesday night. It's wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on the Locked On NBA YouTube feed. Celtics are in Chicago Tuesday night. They're the only one of the top 4 teams in action. So the Celtics can gain or lose ground. Now, it seems like they're going to play everybody. They put out their injury report, and Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum on there with right knee tendinopathy. They're probable. Al Horford, low back soreness is probable. Obviously, Rob is out. Nick Stauskas is out. And Juwan Morgan. Health and safety protocols, which I don't like the fact that the Celtics have somebody in health and safety protocols. That bugs me. But that's the injury report. The Celtics, it seems like everybody's going to play. How much they play, or maybe they don't, but they may be setting themselves up to sit on Thursday, and maybe the NBA looks the other way on sitting people on a TNT game in the second to last game of the season. Maybe that's how it goes. But we'll see. We'll see if that becomes a JV game or what. But there's so much still up in the air. I can't see, like, the Celtics can say, okay, people can say they should tank. They should just punt the last 3 games. Just sit everybody the last 3 games. Well, first of all, that's not going to work. You can't just sit everybody the last 3 games, because you can't just have 2 weeks of them not playing in NBA competition. You can't just sit everybody for for that whole time. So that's number one. Number two, you drop to 3 or you drop to 4, and your reward is what? Playing the Toronto Raptors. And yeah, the Toronto Raptors, you probably should beat the Toronto Raptors, but I don't want to play Toronto either. The Raptors are basically willing to do everything it takes to win a game. They will play any style of defense. They will play any style of basketball. They fall lockstep behind Nick Nurse. Whatever crazy thing that he decides to try, they will do it, and they will be good at it because they're Toronto and they're annoyingly good at it. And it junks up a series. I don't want the first game of that series to be against the Toronto Raptors as much as I don't want it to be against the Brooklyn Nets. But you know what? At least the Brooklyn Nets have some very exposable weaknesses. You're going to have to defend your butts off to stop them, but they have nobody to guard the Celtics. They have nobody to guard the Celtics. So I still feel like the Celtics can go out there. Honestly, I think they could beat Brooklyn in fewer games that they would need to beat Toronto. And Brooklyn has much more talent, high-end talent than Toronto, but Toronto has this, I call them on the Locked On NBA podcast, I call them cockroaches. And I say that with all due respect. I say that in a very complimentary way. You're impossible to kill. I'm sick of facing the Toronto Raptors in the playoffs. You know that they're going to junk it up. They're Nick Nurse is going to win you a game. Fred VanVleet's going to go off for a big fourth quarter and win a game in a series. And then they have enough good players where they could just get hot. They're hot, you're cold. That's potentially a win in the series. They have the potential to win 2 or 3 games in two or three different ways. Even with the Celtics, I think, having better talent, I still think that Toronto is a pain in the butt. I don't want to drop that far. I don't want the Celtics to you go 4 and you play 4-5 and you face the Toronto Raptors. And then you got to face the top seed, which would be Miami Heat. You say, well, okay, that's better than facing Milwaukee. Yes. But I think Kyle Lowry is lying in wait. I think Kyle Lowry is sitting there. It's waiting for the playoffs to start. And he's going to be like, all right, I'm Kyle Lowry. I've said this before on the podcast that he's going to drop a triple-double in game 1 and people of the playoffs, and people are going to be like, oh, right. He's Kyle Lowry. He's really good. So as far as I'm concerned, the Celtics should just go and play basketball. The number one thing is just be healthy. Whatever it takes to be healthy, you do. And then the seeding falls where it may. If you end up playing Toronto in the first round, you got to deal with it. If you end up playing Chicago in the first round, that's the best case scenario. So it's probably going to be the 3rd seed that you're looking at. If you are hoping for any one thing, the 3rd seed is probably the way to go. But you're still, if you go to 3rd and Milwaukee goes to 2nd, now you're still going to play Milwaukee in the 2nd round and you don't have home court. So is that worth it? Is it worth it to play Chicago in the first round? And they're not going to have Lonzo Ball. We know that they're struggling. They're in a bit of a free fall. An easier first round. It doesn't make the 2nd round any easier. It really doesn't. Milwaukee, you're not going to, maybe you have maybe you're a little healthier. Maybe you're a little fresher. I don't know. To me, from a competitive standpoint, I just say, stay healthy as best you can and face who you face, and you just deal with it. And hopefully it's a good matchup. I still think the Celtics are better than most of these teams. And if you're going to face Milwaukee, you might as well do it when you've got home court. And that I still think that after these games on Tuesday. There was an interesting piece written on Boston.com about Danny Ainge, and it basically said, hey, let's not forget Danny Ainge and his role in this Celtics team that's on the verge of 50 wins. So I said, hey, you know what? Good point. I'll talk about that when I come back. First, let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. You know it. I've been saying it for a long time, but maybe you don't want a protein bar. Maybe you just say, you know what, John, I don't like protein bars. Okay, this isn't really a protein bar. It's more like a candy bar. And so don't use it as a protein bar. Eat it like a candy bar. And compare a Built bar to a candy bar, where a candy bar is like 240 calories and 30 grams of sugar and dozens of net carbs. Built bar is 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs. And you get 17 grams of protein on top of it, which is good for your body. Your body will like that. But if you're looking to snack on something, throw the chocolate bars away, get a Built bar. Now, if you want the Built bar, if you are looking for a protein bar, this is like a delicious treat that gives you that protein that you're looking for after a workout. That's great. But go to Built.com, check it out. See the different flavors. Buy one box. Use the promo code LOCK15, get 15% off your order. Buy one box. You know what kind of candy bar you like. Go and find a similar flavor on Built.com and try it. And if you think this could be a replacement for your candy bar, then guess what? Every day you're saving half as many calories. And if you eat a candy bar a day, then all week long, you could be saving yourself 600, 700, 800 calories a week. That goes a long way. Just buy one box, because Locked 15 works every single time. Locked 15 works every single time when you use it at Built.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to celebrate something on Tuesday, the Celtics did win in a way because the Lakers lost. The Lakers lost, and the Lakers have been eliminated from the playoffs, from the play-in, from everything. When the regular season ends, it will not include the Los Angeles Lakers. Goodbye. Bye-bye. What a disaster that season has been. I will continue to say the Lakers are lucky that they had the bubble, that they had those 3 months off, because if they didn't have those 3 months off, that championship season that they had, LeBron was banged up, Anthony Davis was banged up getting into the playoffs as well. They might have still won, and I can't say whether they would have won or not, but we've seen the Lakers with LeBron and Anthony Davis banged up heading into the playoffs for multiple years now. And aside from the bubble, when they had 2 months off to rest themselves, it hasn't worked out. Now, they still have to win in the bubble. You still have to beat those teams. So congratulations, you won your banner. But if it wasn't for that, this could have been a real disaster in Los Angeles. So enjoy your Schadenfreude there. That's a fun little thing for Celtics fans. I know people do it on the Lakers side too. So just enjoy it. Now, interesting piece on Boston.com from Chad Finn. Friend of the show. Going to have Chad back on at some point here. Maybe next week when the season is over. We'll have a long stretch. I'll get Chad back on. But Chad wrote a piece on Danny Ainge. And it's like, hey, by the way, don't forget, Danny Ainge is responsible for a lot of what's happening here. And you know what? It's a good reminder. And I wanted to talk about it for a reason, because it is a good reminder. Because you know what? A lot of people have been saying, or have said, a lot of things about Danny Ainge's drafting. Well, look at this team. Starting Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, and when he's healthy, Robert Williams. It's 4 guys that Danny Ainge drafted. And drafted Smart 6th, drafted Jaylen Brown, kind of a little bit of an unpopular pick. Maybe some people thought it was a reach, but he took him regardless of his shooting issues at Cal. Traded down to 3, even though he had the top overall pick, to get Jayson Tatum there and pick up another pick. If Sacramento doesn't have that outlier year, who knows who that pick could have been? It ended up being Romeo Langford. Oh, well, it happens. But and then getting Rob at the bottom of the draft. And then you look at the bench, getting Grant Williams at the bottom half of the draft, and getting Peyton Pritchard in the bottom of the draft. So Ime Udoka is playing like 8 or 9 guys, and 6 of those guys, heavy contributors, are all Danny Ainge draftees. For a guy who has a reputation that people want to, or the knock on him is supposedly that he can't draft, to have 6 guys that he drafted on a team that's on the verge of 50 wins, and for many people, the contender in the East, or a top contender in the East to come out, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. And, I think the lesson is that it takes a long time to evaluate draft classes. It just takes a long time, because Grant Williams had an okay rookie year, then a step backwards for various circumstances I don't care to rehash here, but he did. And then he had a full off season and talked to the new head coach, and here we are. He's playing really well and has the potential to be even better. You don't know what situation you're going to be in. You don't know where the team, different players come in and they take well to a situation. They don't take well to a situation. You just don't know where it's going to go. But it takes a while to truly evaluate your drafts. Even Marcus Smart, who's been doing this now for 8 years or so, and only now has he finally been in a role that he feels great in as a point guard, the point guard. And finally, he's been able to snap into a style of play that he feels good. And I can tell you that a lot of the Marcus Smart people who love to make comments in the YouTube section, the YouTube comments, who would love to make comments on Twitter, all of those people have basically disappeared. And that says a lot. When your haters are quiet, that means you're playing well. And Marcus Smart has been playing well. Jayson Tatum, who came into the league super skinny and told you got to put some muscle on, and he came in, has been good since he's been in, and he's been an all-NBA player before and been a multiple-time All-Star, but now he's an MVP candidate and a legitimate MVP candidate. I mean, he's not going to be the MVP. Other guys have had better seasons, but he is now ascending to a point where in next season, the season after that, Jayson Tatum as an MVP candidate is fully plausible. It's actually, he's shown that he can be that guy. Jaylen Brown, taking him with the 3rd pick and questions about his shooting and all that stuff. Yesterday's podcast, what was I talking about? Jaylen Brown's shooting is off the charts right now. He's a guy that's perhaps, there are few players who have improved from their rookie year to, what is his 5th year now? There are few players who have improved more than he has, season to season to season to season. He's really taken a lot of steps. Each year he's taken significant steps. Robert Williams, all of a sudden, now he's playing 30-plus minutes a game. And the meniscus thing, it happened, but when he's healthy, he's a major, major, major contributor to what the Celtics are doing. Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard. It takes time, and we still don't know what Peyton Pritchard is fully going to be. We still don't know what Grant Williams is fully going to be. And even though some guys, sometimes they have down years, there's, the patience to let them kind of figure it out and have that pay off. It's worth it. So, yeah, let's give Danny Ainge a little bit of love. The main reason why this team has turned it around is Ime Udoka and the team buying in, and Brad Stevens making some really critical moves, getting Al Horford back in the Kemba Walker trade was so much more impactful than we even anticipated back then. That's a critical move. And getting Daniel Tice in the middle of the season at the deadline, turns out that's a critical move. is he going to be, I don't think he's going to be executive of the year, but like, excuse me, when you think about his moves there, you're like, yeah, he's done all right. Like he's moving Schroeder out and just getting Derek White. Like he hasn't done a lot, but the few moves that he's made are super impactful. But give Danny Ainge his due. Give Danny Ainge his credit. Credit to Chad Finn for bringing that up. I think that's worthy of discussion. I will be back after the Celtics play the Chicago Bulls, hopefully beating the Chicago Bulls. Celtics on a back-to-back, Chicago and Milwaukee, to end the week of podcasts. And then Sunday night, I will be back after the Sunday night game against the Memphis Grizzlies. And then I'll figure out a whole week of podcasts during the off week where the Celtics will be waiting for the play-in tournament to be done. Who knows how things are going to shake out between now and then. So subscribe to the podcast. If you're new and you're still listening, that means I hope that you like the podcast and want to subscribe. Again, you can download it, take it with you in the car. I know that driving to work is a bit of a pain now for all of you who are doing it again. Taking this podcast with you in the car can help get you through that commute and get you to where you're going, hopefully with a little bit brighter spirits. And of course, the show is on YouTube. This show is free, available wherever you get your podcasts. It's on YouTube. Make it your first listen every day. Love everybody who comes up to me in the garden and says, first listen, like that makes my day. Makes my day. Thank you all so much. Come on over next time, shake my hand, take a picture, whatever. Well, I'd love to do it. So if you are a subscriber, I would love it if you shared the podcast. If you saw fit to spread the word and tell your family and friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.